Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on this webinar. I appreciate it's a busy time of year. It's often the start of the new financial year for many, and so quite busy. But I hope that you'll gain quite a lot from today's session, which focuses on the move from Sage 50 as a well-used and loved product onto Sage 200, which you may feel could be quite a jump, but what we hope to do is to share how easy this transition can be during the next 45 minutes or so. Now, in terms of who we have on the webinar today, my name's Paul Ince. I'm a Solutions Architect for TSG, and I'm joined by Chris Smith, who's TSG's Sage Product Lead, and Sam Pidgeon, one of our Senior Sage Sales Specialists. Just going through the agenda, so Chris will position Sage 200 and talk about the key reasons to upgrade from Sage 50. Everyone actually wants to see the product, and Sam will ensure that you do that with the demonstration, and then there's a chance for us to answer any questions that you may have at the end. And now, before I pass over to Chris, just a couple of points of order really on the technicalities of this webinar, if you're not familiar with it, or if you've not joined one of TSG's webinars before. All microphones are muted, mainly to avoid background noise, but if you do have a question for us, we're very willing to answer that, and there's a question box in the control panel on the right hand side of your screen. And I'll collate any questions that are posed during the course of the webinar, and then between us we'll answer as many of those as we can at the end in the Q&A session. And now I can see who poses which questions, so if we do run out of time for questions, or if the question is going to be very specific to you, then what we'll do is we'll follow that up after the webinar with you on an individual basis. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Chris.
Morning, everybody. So my name is Chris Smith, and I'm the product lead at TSG. So we're just going to start off by just having a position in Sage 200 and Sage 50 and trying to understand a little bit of how the structure of kind of Sage World and the hierarchy of the software that they do. So Sage 50 is the product that you're all kind of using today. So nothing bad about that. It's by a million miles the most popular accounting package in the UK market. It's a great little product, but it is a proprietary Sage product. So what that means is it's a database that's written by them. It's aimed at the small kind of entry-level type of business. So when you kind of start to hit the ceiling in terms of things like users and numbers of transactions, really, you can throw kind of NASA-level hardware at that, and you're not going to see any improvements once you do hit those particular walls. There's also the element as well there that in terms of there are specific bits of functionality that as your business grows and becomes more complex, there may be the requirement to kind of move up the food chain to have some of those deeper kind of business needs that you tend to need as your business evolves with time. Now the key point there with Sage 50 is that Sage 50 is actually is a commodity product, so clearly you can buy that from us. You can buy it from your accountant, you can buy it from Sage Direct, you can get it PC World, and no doubt there are various places on the internet you can buy it as well. But ultimately, all roads in terms of Sage 50 support lead back to Sage, as you know, with Sage Cover and Sage Cover Extra. Now, when you move up the food chain to 200, that changes. So 200 is the next level of product. So in terms of having a more involved product and more of a need for the system to be configured to suit your individual company needs, then at that stage you start dealing with a channel of partners. So the day-to-day support relationship moves from Sage directly to a partner, in this case clearly being TSG. So Sage is the middle tier product, and certainly the one that we major in at TSG. So you may, on your travels, have heard of previous incarnations in terms of Line 100 being the original DOS product, and MMS, which was kind of a hybrid version of Line 100 when they were transitioning from DOS to Windows. That was around for a couple of years. Now, the killer difference really, there are a variety of functionality differences between 250, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. But the key difference really is that when you move to 200, you are using a Microsoft SQL database. So what that kind of means in English is that there's no theoretical limit then on your kind of your users and your transactions We don't get any of the screen lock-in and the data corruptions that we regularly see in versions of 50 where people are maybe pushing the boundaries a little bit. So you've got a much bigger and better system there. What you also get is a fully integrated solution whereby instead of having constantly bolting modules around it, different databases and programs around it, it's just building on a building block of modules, which I'm going to talk about on the next slide. And finally, just an information piece really, Sage ERP X3 is Sage's enterprise level product. So this is just there for information, to be honest. We at TSG at that level deal with Dynamics NAV as our chosen enterprise ERP product. But X3 is a relatively new name to the UK market. So again, at that top end, you may have heard of things like Sage 1000 or Line 500. So I've really just put that on there for information. So if you see that name bandied around, that's what it is. It's Sage's new kind of enterprise level product. So I spoke there about the integrated nature of 200, and this is really where it's fundamentally different to Sage 50. So in terms of how the product hangs together, what you get as a start is what we call the Sage 200 base platform, and what's included there are the financial modules, obviously, so sales, purchase, nominal ledger, cash book, something called business intelligence. So in addition to your standard report designer, which by the way is exactly the same as the one in line 50, we have some analytical reporting in Excel, which Sam is going to talk about in a bit more detail. You get that out of the box with the base platform, and we also get a single user of CRM, so we have an integrated CRM module as well. Now once you've got that platform, you then, as I say, we're not in the world of bolting on third-party programs and databases here. In Line 100 in the original days was fundamentally an accounting package for accountants, and what we've got now in terms of Sage 200 is a proper business system which is fully integrated out the box, where we can sort of build up the solution that's appropriate to your company with a choice of various modules. So the ones that are available down the side, the first one and most popular is the commercials pack. So what you get in there is sales order processing, purchase order processing, stock, and something called price book, which is basically price matrices and discount models and such like. We've got bill of materials, which is an extension to stock. So this is kind of as a standalone entity, it's kind of kits, packs, assemblies, and maybe basic manufacturing. And then really moving into more of what I would call more vertical modules, so things that are specific to your industry. So project accounting is the module probably formerly known as job costing, so you'll be aware of that, kind of people who are trying to capture profit and loss on particular jobs or contracts. We've got a manufacturing module, which is actually a suite of modules, so that's a full production control system with a BOM module, but also works orders, requirement planning, production planning, graphical planner for capacity planning, and shop floor data capture, and all of those kind of deep production modules. And then we've got a module for the construction industry, so this again is contract costing, but then with specific legislation for that industry in terms of, functionality for that industry in terms of things like applications for payment, CIS controls, and those sort of things. And then finally, we at TSG have developed our own education module specifically for the schools market, which we do a lot of and are just about to relaunch. So in terms of understanding what's in the product, before I pass over to Sam to actually show you what Sage 200 is all about in the flesh, there are a variety of reasons why you would want to move away from 50 to 200, but I think it's probably important to understand that of all the people who use Sage 200 today, I think there's a stat where I think of the order, it's something like 67% of those people actually came from line 50. So this kind of move that you guys are considering, is a well-trodden path. And typically there are, there can be innumerable reasons obviously why someone might want to make the move, but I've just got a few here that I just want to mention as to why you might want to consider that move to 200. So the first one I've mentioned already, so scalability. So at some stage 50 may start wobbling, for want of a technical phrase, so too many users, too many transactions, data corruptions, those sort of things. And what we've got there is a Microsoft SQL database in 200, so that kills that whole piece stone dead. So in terms of increasing in scale, then that's one reason to go to 200. It's a single integrated solution, so I've just done this on the previous slide. In terms of 50, you'll find things like manufacturing and job costing and CRM are third-party tools that you have to integrate. Not the case here, standard modules out the box. Deployment and payment choice. Now, I'm going to talk about this in a bit more depth after Sam's presentation, but what we've got with 200 that we definitely don't have in 50 is choice of deployment, so on-premise in the traditional server sense or on cloud, but we've also got choice in payment. So, do we want to do subscription modeling, or do we want to do the CapEx, or do we do finance? Loads of different ways that we can look at 200. I'm going to talk about that in more detail later on as well. Stock and operations. So this is a key area. So things like multi-location stock, things like units, kind of advanced units of measure, multiple units of measure, serial and batch traceability, multi-user stock takes, significantly enhanced stock control in Sage 200 and a key reason why people do move. Accounting and finance. You guys will probably know better than me. Sage 50 is a date-driven accounting system. So what that means is that when you've done your month-end reports, and it may be that you're sending those away to an investor or to the bank or maybe even passing them to the MD, in 50 there's always the chance that those reports could get changed or skewed after the event by that rogue purchase or sales invoice coming in for a closed period, and we just don't have that in 200. There's the ability to lock periods down. We've got the flexibility, of course, to leave everything open in a date-driven way, but we can lock periods down. So when they're short, they're short. And what we've also got is a 3-tier chart of accounts as well. So in 50, you'll all be familiar with the standard nominal structure with the 4,000 codes, etc. What we get in 200 is a 3-tier chart of accounts with cost centers and departments, all that we can post to. And the final one is foreign trading. So we get a lot of this in terms of 50 customers struggling with the inability to pay and receive a currency with a different currency. 50 customers who are creating bank accounts in the cash book that don't exist in real life, and then moving money around to try and balance things out. Again, we don't have that in 200. 200, we've got full revaluation routine, we've got exchange gains and losses to transaction level, we can pay and receive any currency with any currency, we've got foreign currency price lists, foreign currency suppliers and all of that stuff, so it's all well covered off there. Okay, so having talked through some of those, let's pass across to Sam, and let's see some of this stuff in practice. Sam.
Thanks, Chris. As Chris mentioned, my role really today is to take you through the product side of things. Firstly, make you aware of sort of some of the differences, but I also think it's important to show you some of the similarities with the software. As you guys are already working in the Sage world, when you sort of if you decide to move from 50 to 200, then what it does show is that the products are relatively similar. So first off in front of you is the sort of main user screen for Sage 200. And hopefully it's, again, like I say, is familiar with you. On the left-hand side you have the modules that are available to you, and on the right-hand side we have our list view, so lists of data which are available for each module. So again, Sage 50 users again should give you some comfort that that's pretty familiar, and hopefully you'll be able to sort of find your way around the software. I think one thing that's key with Sage 200, anywhere we are in the software, we can send whatever we see on screen out to Excel. So immediately if we right-click on that screen or any of the transaction screens that we have open, there's an option for us just to send the information to Excel that we see on the screen, so it's quite nice. So aside from the list views in the Sage world, we also have what are called workspace views. Now these are sort of new views of data that enable us to provide sort of additional information in a single screen, maybe without having to sort of pop up 2 or 3 screens to get to the same information. Before I sort of walk you around one of these, one thing I will point out is that in the Sage 200 world we also have what Sage call a light user. So this may be a user who doesn't really mainly post transactions within the system. All they need to do is maybe just get access to some of the information. That may be looking at customer balances for salespeople, it may be seeing what's in stock. But there is a little web-based light user that uses these workspaces that allows people to, like I say, access view-only information but not transact with the system. So example of this workspace here, this is our sort of purchase order document status. So in the first pane what we have is a list of all of our purchase orders. This one's quite nice because we get a little graphical interface just to a quick glance to show us what status our purchase orders are at. So we can see whether something's been invoiced, whether it's been received, or whether it's just an order that's gone on the system at this point in time. And by highlighting the purchase order at the top, we'll see is the information on the right-hand side will change. So that gives us the key sort of header document detail. And if we look down, there's various other information that we can see against that, so the deliveries or returns or the authorizers. And that changes when we click on each order within the top half. Down the bottom, we also are seeing the sort of purchase line information. So all we're seeing is lots of information against a single order. So with the line status, we can see the quantities there, what's been received, what's been invoiced, and potentially unit prices. Again, just with these workspaces, we do have the ability to sort of change the information that you see in these. So you can change the columns. You can just move the columns around, and you can also amend the workspaces to suit yourselves. Just as an example, for you guys, apologies for that. Just an example for you. What I was going to do is just show you all the different workspaces that are available within the software. We have a group of maybe about sort of 20 to 30 different workspaces. This is something that Sage are giving us more and more each time. So for each of the different modules, there's the ability to see various sort of workspaces. That's kind of the user environment. The next thing Chris mentioned earlier was the reporting side of things. So I'm just going to touch on the business intelligence reports, which is quite a bit different to the stuff we can do in Sage 50. The BI reports are all Excel based, and there is a suite of reports out of the box. So for example, the one we have here is our sales dashboard, and you can see various information around your customers in sort of a graph format. And if I choose to, I may decide that actually I just want to see that information for a single customer. By taking that away, it will go away and recalculate the information, putting it from the data within Sage. And when that's run through, what we will then see is just the information for a specific customer. Another example of one of the BI reports, this is just an out-of-the-box report again, sales by customer by month. So what we've got is our date range across the top and our customers down the right-hand side. So what this is quite good, it just shows you how easy these are to amend from an end user perspective. We all know report writing is usually one of those things that's a bit tricky, but the BI side of things makes it nice and easy. In this instance, if I didn't want to see this by customer and actually wanted to see sales by product for argument's sake, all I can do is drag and drop the two different headings, maybe similar to a sort of pivot table scenario. And now what I'm seeing in there is a list of our products and the sales by product. So again, just a couple of examples about the BI side of things. A couple of things that are key on this. Firstly, it's Excel based. And the other thing is you don't actually have to be a Sage user to work with the BI reports. They are Excel spreadsheets that effectively anyone can access outside of Sage. So we'll go back into the core product. Again, Chris mentioned a couple of things earlier. Accounting periods. As Chris mentioned, we can have multiple open, closed periods. Again, aside from the Sage 50 side of things where you have effectively an open book accounting, in the Sage 200 world we do close our periods off and they remain shut. But you have the ability to define how many periods you have open or closed at one time. It also allows us to say who has the ability to open, close or reopen those periods. So again, just another element of control on that side of things. Another thing that was mentioned by Chris earlier was the currencies and exchange rates. So again, we have the ability to include as many currencies as we want. Suppliers and customer accounts will be held in their currency. And as Chris mentioned, we can record payments or receipts against those accounts in the different currency than they're held for. So if you have a euro account for a customer and they pay you in sterling, for argument's sake, the system can handle that without having multiple accounts set up. So we set our exchange rates. We have two ways of doing that, just either a standard exchange rate, or we can put a date range to which an exchange rate is applicable. Okay, so we're going to move across into the stock side of things. I think stock, there's quite a few key differences in here, so I'm just going to run through a few of these by looking at the actual one of the stock records themselves. First thing Chris mentioned was, again, locations. If you have multi-locations for stock, you might have multiple warehouses, you may want a goods received location, etc. You can manage this within Sage 200, something you can't in Sage 50. As you'll see at these location levels, we can also set reorder minimum and maximum stock levels. So we can see what quantity we're holding in stock by location. Another thing we can do is we can record multiple suppliers against our stock records, which this allows us to do some clever stuff with the purchase ordering. If we have a look at one of those suppliers, we can set a lead time on there, a usual order quantity, and we can also set a supplier price for that item. So we can record as many suppliers as we choose against that. I think one of the key ones, if you need to do any tracing or traceability with your stock items, Sage 200 can handle both batch and serial numbers. So a serial number may be assigned to a specific individual product or an item within there. What that just allows us to do is to have full traceability of that item, when it's bought, who it's bought from, when you sell it, who it's sold to, and then potentially where it's returned to as well. For things like batches, you can start recording sell-by dates, use-by dates, and we do have the ability to store some additional information against there also. We also talked in there about, from a stock take perspective, we can manage stock takes by sort of location, so by warehouse level. And as Chris mentioned, we can do cyclical stock takes. So there's key stuff that you want to stock take every 60 days, every 30 days. You can record that against a specific product, and it will then prompt you that you need to stock take those when you run your stock takes. I'm going to move away from stock, and I'm going to touch quickly on the PO side of things. So in the purchase order side of things, what we do have first is we do have the ability to have some authorization within our purchase order side of things. So we can set up a set of rules that determines who should and who shouldn't authorize purchase orders, so that when they go on the system, it looks for the rules that we have in place, which can be multiple levels, and defined based on who's created that purchase order, who needs to authorize it before you can process it within the system. So behind that, there is some email notification in place, and again, there's also a couple of workspaces that sort of manage that process for us. So if we were to have a look, we can go into the purchase order authorization workspace, and it will just show us which orders are there to be authorized at this point in time. So you can see those that you've authorized when the notification was processed. And at this point, if it's an order that I need to authorize, I can do that from the workspace itself. Another thing we can do with regards to sales and purchase orders, we can also now create purchase orders directly from the back of a sales order. So if we were to put a sales order on the system, doesn't matter who that's for, and if we were to add a product in there, we can raise an order for a certain amount. If they do not have those in stock, at the point of saving that sales order, we can save that and generate a purchase order. So off the back of this, it will just allow us to create a purchase order. The other side, I think, in the sales orders, which is quite important, we're able to take payments with our sales orders. So if we want to record a payment because somebody wants to pay up front, we can do so. And in this, we do have integration with Sage Pay also. So if we select the online card side of things in here and save it, it will ask us and prompt us to put that person's card details in. So if you're in that sort of scenario where people place orders and you take payment over the phone, you can integrate that fully into Sage 200. One thing to point out on this is not to worry from a sort of data protection perspective, because this is all held within the sort of Sage Pay secure environment. Okay, so back over on the purchase orders, another thing that's quite nice that we're able to do. Sage has the ability, or Sage 200 has the ability to actually sort of tell us what it thinks we should be ordering. So we have a generate orders routine, and what that allows us to do is it allows us to go into our orders and say, okay, based on, if you want to include order lines as well within there, you can do, but based on what we know now, go away and tell us what you think we should be buying. So what the system will do is it will look at reorder levels, minimum maximum stock levels, outstanding sales orders, and it will present us with a list that says, okay, this is what we think you should be purchasing. And from that side, what you can then do is go in, have a look at each item and decide whether you actually want to raise a purchase order for that. So in this case, it's saying this is how many we should purchase. Do we want to buy it from this supplier? Is that the correct price? And it's explained to you why you want to buy it. Once you have done, you can then confirm that and OK it. You'd work your way through that list, and once you've completed through that list, you can say generate orders, and that will go away and generate all the purchase orders that we need to, or that you've decided that you want to purchase against. Okay, I'm going to take you out the sort of core product now, move us across to a couple of sort of, I suppose, the sort of add-on modules that Chris mentioned. I think firstly, project accounting. We know there's a sort of a job costing or project costing module in Sage 50, but if you are project-based, this kind of takes things to the next level and gives you a bit more sort of advanced analysis. So if we were to have a look at the projects, what we do in the Sage 200 world is we create our own structures for our projects. So however you wish your projects to be created, you create the structure for them. So if we open up some of these projects and phases, you can see they can go down to quite a detailed level. And as and when costs come in via the purchase ledger or revenue via the sales ledger, they can be posted against each element of these costs. We've got the ability to store some additional information against projects, which allows us to do reporting and analysis. It may be a type of project, maybe the project manager, but it just allows you to sort of slice and dice the information a little bit more. We also, again, have the ability to set budgets against our projects. And these can be done at whichever level within the sort of project drop down as we choose to. So outside of that, we can then do some profitability analysis, costing analysis, and drill into the detail of that. Just going back to the sort of workspaces side of things, we talked about the light user. One of the other uses for that is what we call WTE, or web time and expenses. So linked in with the projects module, we have the ability to post timesheets and post expenses against those projects. The way the WTE side of things work is that I'm not one of those people maybe who uses Sage 200 too much, but I do need to record my projects, the timesheets that I record against the projects. So they can be done via the workspace. They can be authorized by somebody within the system, and they can then update the project. So just another way of making use of the sort of workspace environment. I'm going to move over to the CRM side of things. I think CRM is probably one of those things that maybe some of you may use, don't use, never heard of. So what is CRM really? Traditionally it does stand for Customer Relationship Management. Effectively, I think in the Sage world, having an integrated CRM just gives us the ability to have a single view of our customer, or actually even a supplier who we integrate with. So what Sage 200 or Sage 50 do is they'll manage the sort of order process for you. There's obviously an element before that and after that, sort of aftercare for the customer. But in here, we just have a single view of that customer. So what we're looking at the minute is my sort of dashboard or my CRM element, and that's just a sort of pictorial view of the things that I'm dealing with from a CRM perspective. Okay. Likewise, in CRM, traditionally it comes from a sort of sales and marketing background. So if you do want to manage sort of leads or opportunities or pipelines, you've got the ability there to see all the opportunities that relate to me in this case. One of the other things that key, I think, in the Sage 200 CRM, which is where it kind of sits itself above most of the other CRM offerings that we can sort of work with 200, is that we can create groups of customers. So from a marketing perspective, we can use the data that's sat in Sage 200 from a stock perspective and a sales order perspective and actually create groups of customers. So if you're dealing with customers, say, okay, we want to speak to customers maybe who have purchased something from you 5 years ago that you know they should maybe renew, then you can create a group for customers that have purchased a specific product 5 years ago and go on from that side of things. So if I just take you into an example of a sort of customer record in CRM itself, there's the sort of summary information. What we can see is some of the financial information that's being pulled back from actually Sage 200. So if your sales team are always asking you, what does so-and-so owe us, or what's the credit limit for this customer, they potentially have that information at their fingertips. Another key thing in the CRM world is maybe recording information, conversations, communications, meetings, all stored under one customer record. So there may be multiple people in your organization that go and see the same customer or that communicate with the same customer. We record that in this case against that same customer. Going back to the integration piece, I think it's key again is that, again, if you're running in the CRM side of things, you can see all of the information from the ERP side of things. So we can understand the sales orders that relate to this customer, previous products purchased. So that from a CRM perspective is just a sort of whistle stop around there just to give you a sort of a little bit of an introduction. And from a demo perspective, that kind of wraps it up from me, and I hope it was hope it gave you a good flavour of Sage 200 and some of the benefits and similarities over Sage 50. And I will pass you back to Chris to finish off.
Hi everybody. Yeah, thanks for that, Sam. So in the last two slides I want to cover off, just going to talk about choice really, and this is one of the key tenets now of Sage 200, be it for folks moving from Sage 50 or from anywhere else for that matter. And what we've got is there's two areas really, one in terms of deployment and one in terms of payment. Now in terms of the deployment story, you'll all obviously be aware of cloud and web technologies, and certainly the majority of meetings we have nowadays, both internally and externally, there's always the word cloud is included, I think, without exception. Now I think the headline here for me is that there is no right or wrong answer to this, and certainly as TSG, you know, we're not here to say everybody go cloud or everybody avoid the cloud. It's kind of, it's quite a subjective one, very really particular to your company, your your situation, what you're trying to achieve. And I think as a kind of a valued partner, all we really want to do is highlight the pros and cons in particular areas, and so you're kind of eyes wide open to make the right decision for your business. So there's three areas really I just want to talk about. The first one clearly is lower cost of entry. So the payment plan in cloud is a subscription. So rather than paying £5,000-10,000, let's pay £200 per month forever. So a couple of some people will naturally go away and say, yeah, great, I don't care what's happening in the next 2 years, let's do that. And other people will think, well, hang on a minute, if I look at this over 3 or 5 years, then I'm a lot worse off. And both of those arguments are absolutely valid. Now clearly with cloud, the whole point is that it takes away the whole hardware conversation, so maybe there's some cost there that you're saving on. And also, I'd like to think that if you are on a subscription model, then any kind of return on investment that we've worked on with you, we'll be seeing that achieved, in months, not years. So there's a lot of thoughts around that, and as I say, but obviously the payment method and the lower cost of entry is a key point with the cloud decision. The second one is to do with the updates. So once we're in the cloud, the software obviously is not on premise, so updates in theory are a lot easier. Now it may be your company has particular bespoke requirements or particular changes that you might need doing to the software, and of course we can still do that with the cloud. It's not a means to say that there is no bespoke amendments allowed or integrations, but clearly with being in the cloud we need to be a bit more eyes wide open on that. Now what I would say is for the company who are happier to accept what we call like more of a near-fit solution, so let's call that 90% maybe of what you're looking for, there is absolutely no question that that company will be the beneficiary of more frequent updates to their software. Now clearly, as I say, there's nothing to say we can't integrate cloud and we can't bespoke cloud, but we just need to do that with eyes wide open, because the last thing we want obviously is Sage sending a fantastic update down the line and causing an issue with any of our clients' systems. The final piece with the deployment thing that we come across is mobility. So, you know, we're all mobile nowadays. The whole business world is mobile, and whether that's a engineer in the field or a sales guy on the road, or maybe a traveling MD or director who wants to you know, consume information on a plane, train, or at an airport or something. Well, clearly cloud lends itself to that perfectly, with that whole kind of being a perfect conduit for mobility and the kind of available anywhere type story, without the need for any clever kind of Citrix or terminal services or VPNs or any of that kind of stuff that we've traditionally done. So just food for thought, really. As I say, just trying to demystify the choice for you a little bit there, and plenty of things to think about. And the final piece I want to talk about in the presentation itself is payment. So and with Sage 200 now, there's no question we have more choice than ever before in terms of payment. So you know, there is an investment required clearly with moving up to the next platform of software. But what we've got now is options. So what we've not got is people who are made to sort of almost stay as a hostage on 50 when they've clearly grown out of the solution. So what we've got is 4 choices. So the on-premise traditional CapEx model is still there. So RRP of software, ongoing support, maintenance, and our services, you know, paid on our standard payment terms over, you know, let's say 3 or 4 months duration of the project. Yeah, that's still there, and I guess always will be. Cloud subscription pricing we've just spoke about, so per user per month, that ongoing subscription rather than the big CapEx upfront payment, and no annual maintenance. And then this is an interesting one that Sage have come up with, which is quite novel. So this is an on-premise deployment with a subscription pricing. So it may be that you're not quite ready for cloud yet, or it may be that, you know, you've got particular integration to a third-party system or bespoke package that, you know, we can't do in the cloud, or you don't want to put at risk at this point in time. But perhaps you do like the thought of paying a per user per month subscription. So we can absolutely do that now, and that's a really interesting offering, I think, that's quite unique to Sage. And the best bit, by the way, in terms of both of the subscription packages we do, is that they have a minimum 12-month sign-off, but they also have only a 3-month notice period, and you can flex them up and down as well. So if you're a business that works seasonally, or you've got a peak and trough in the year, then, you know, we can put users on and take them off as you see fit. And the final one that, again, has always been around, and I guess always will be, is a fixed-term finance. So this is where we take that traditional CapEx model and just wrap that all up into a 3-year finance. So again, standard monthly payments, but the difference being there is kind of a start and an end, and you know, you kind of own the software, if you like, at the end of the process. So yeah, plenty of choice there in terms of deployment and payment, and hopefully something there, you know, where neither of those 2 elements will be a barrier to your evaluation of Sage 200. Okay, so in terms of that's kind of the end of the core presentation. I think just looking across the table to Paul, I think we have got a couple of questions. So I'm just going to pass back to Paul, and we'll deal with a couple of the questions that have come in.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Yes, we've got a few questions come in. So in no particular order, I'll try and make them in a logical order. But first question, which I'm going to put to you, Sam, if that's okay. What happens to my line 50 data if I move to Sage 200?
Okay, well, essentially, the good news is Sage have kindly provided us with a full sort of migration path. So we have a tool from Sage that enables us to fully migrate your like-for-like data, so you get all your transactional history, etc. However, the reality in projects is what we do find is that obviously we've got sort of more complexities in the chart of accounts, things like that. So we do find that some sort of customers find it a good opportunity again to sort of start from scratch, maybe cleanse supplier data, cleanse customer data. Like I say, take advantage of the enhanced nominal ledger and things like that. But we do have the ability then to import sort of customer, supplier, and stock data into the system. So there is the ability to migrate fully across. However, that's not always the right thing. But we, again, if that's not, and people want to take advantage of other things, we do have the ability to import some of the sort of opening balance data for you.
Great, thank you, Sam. This one is kind of similar. So This is really, also about the move from Sage 50. So our website is integrated to Sage 50. Is it possible with 200 to also integrate their website? I assume the answer is yes. So Chris, could you maybe comment on that particularly, please?
Yeah, sure. So integrations with 200 is something that we can definitely do and do very regularly, it has to be said. So without going too far into technoland, the fact that 200 has a SQL database makes it a lot easier for us to make it to talk to any third-party package really of any decent standing. Now what we've got is a couple of options again. So there are a variety of standard kind of import tools for 200 that you can do manually in terms of things like invoices and new customers and stuff like that. But if you want to make things a little bit more automated, we've got various bits of kind of standard middleware that have got the Sage connections good to go. So again, that example there, website, is one that we do regularly in terms of bringing in sales orders and new customers to Sage from websites using standard bits of software that we've got. But we've also done more complex stuff as well, linking to things like maybe buying group portals and front of house hotel systems to bring in nominal transactions and all sorts of stuff. So the answer, yeah, definitely something we can do. I said to somebody the other day on this, it's always the same conversation. It's just the answers are always a little bit different depending on what the different touch points and the data that you want to bring in. But definitely no problem there at all.
Thanks, Chris. Sort of staying on a similar sort of theme, really, to do with integration. The question here is about using an external developer to integrate with a bespoke application. So is this possible with cloud with 200?
Yeah. Sorry, so using integrating to the cloud? Yeah. So integrated. So the developer tools are there with the cloud. I think that in terms of the external developer piece, you just need to be a bit careful there because Sage have a developer program, and the tools that you need to do the integrations to either the cloud or the core 200 piece, you need to be on that program. So if the external guy has got those tools, then fantastic. What we can also do is maybe if that's a guy you've worked with before who knows your stuff and you're comfortable with, what we've done previously is let third parties build things and we've just given them kind of a wrapper or a platform to kind of hit with the work that they're doing to take away that, kind of give them a window. What you definitely can't do is post directly to the Sage tables without the without using the Sage tools or being using a piece of middleware. And the reason for that is actually not technically, clearly you can do that, but it basically if there's any kind of unauthorized post to the tables, it goes across the Sage kind of support agreement, so you kind of invalidate the support. So you've just got to be a little bit careful of that. So definitely we can work with a third party. We do it all the time, but we just need to have a discussion on that, exactly how you want to go about it.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Right, this is going to seem like I'm picking on you, Chris, because I keep asking you the questions. Yeah. But okay, so someone told me Sage 200 is a lot more complicated than Sage 50. So in reality, is it?
Okay. So this is a sales answer, yes and no. I think that as you've seen from Sam's presentation there, albeit in 20 minutes, 200 is deliberately designed to look and feel like line 50 and behave in a similar way. So, I said earlier in my piece that, a good 60-70% of the people who buy Sage 200 are coming from 50. So there is a deliberate kind of a deliberate ploy, if you like, in the design of the software to make it as accessible and seamless for line 50 users as possible. That said, you are moving up the food chain of software. Clearly there's a lot more going on under the bonnet. Yeah, certainly it is a little bit more involved, but hopefully, in terms of that's why probably when I was talking about the partner, the channel model, so that's where we come in as a partner to kind of help you through that kind of transition and get you up and running and comfortable and self-sufficient as soon as we can.
Okay, next question really relates to CRM. So can you tell me a bit more about the CRM module, what it does, is it like ACT? I'll actually take this one if that's okay with everyone. So is it like ACT? Well, yes it is, because ACT is a CRM system and the CRM module to Sage 200 is a CRM system as well. So they do similar things, for example, help with lead generation, help with opportunity management, help with recording interactions with customers and so on. It is more advanced than ACT, the Sage 200 module for CRM, so there's a lot more scope to customize the solution to fit your business need. So whether you are in the manufacturing sector or in the service sector, there are elements within CRM that can be totally customized to fit your particular need, and that's the beauty really of Sage CRM. Think of it fine as a sales or service tool, but also think of Sage CRM within the Sage 200 suite as well. So probably the best reason to use the Sage CRM module within Sage 200 suite is because it will actually give you an integrated solution out of the box with very little work, and you can actually have a business solution that takes you from marketing, lead generation, through to Salesforce automation and the managing of the opportunity, through to the sale, through to dispatch, and through to invoice and then cash collection. So it really does, as part of the Sage 200 suite, give you absolutely everything that you need within that one business solution. There are a couple of other things that it does as well which are important, such as it gives you the ability to have a web portal for things like maybe self-service, so whether you want to use it for capturing leads or whether you want it for your customers to log customer service issues with you. That's all capable out of the box with Sage CRM, so definitely worth investigating. If you have a Sage CRM, if you have a CRM system already and are thinking to move to Sage 200, then do talk about the Sage 200 CRM module as part of that. It's quite a big topic, so I'll leave it at that, but suffice to say, do talk to the specialist at TSG when you're talking to them about moving to Sage 200, and we can give you some further information on that. Okay, final question that we've got here, I'll give to Sam because he's probably feeling a bit left out by now. Can Sage 200 deal with multiple companies in one license? I currently consolidate in Excel, and they're describing it as painful. So Sam, can I ask you to answer that for us, please?
Yeah, indeed. I think I touched on that briefly in the product side of things. The difference is, I think, in the Sage 50 world, you buy your license, and when you add an additional company on, you pay per additional company. In the Sage 200 world, you buy a single license, and that enables you to have unlimited users on there. With regards to the consolidation, I assume if you're doing it in Excel, you're having to maybe take all the data out of one and manually pull that together in an Excel spreadsheet. If you do have a group of companies, so maybe 2 or 3 subsidiaries, but want to report at the group level, yes, we can manage that in Sage 200. Effectively, what we do is we create an overarching company or the group company within the software, and we point the subsidiaries up to the sort of group, and we run a consolidation which pushes the values up to the group company, and then you can use that group company like any other company to use with BI or just standard reports to produce your P&L reports or balance sheets at group level. So the answer is yes, it can deal with on one license, and there is a solution for consolidating within the software in Sage 200.
Great stuff. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Chris, for answering those questions for us. That's all the questions that we've had on this session. And thank you both for actually contributing to this webinar today as well. Great demo by you, Sam, and lots of information from you, Chris, as well. And finally, thank you for watching this webinar and taking time out of your busy day to join us this morning. If this webinar has sparked any interest in Sage 200 or if you've got a question that you'd like to ask directly, the team at TSG are able to help you out with that. I'm very happy to answer any of those questions directly. The details of how to contact us are on the screen here, so drop Chris an email or chris.smith@tsg.com, or why not give him a call directly on 07717 571 705. That's 07717 571 705. That's his mobile number, so any time of day or night he will be there willing to answer a question on Sage 200. So I hope you've enjoyed it. That's all for today. Thank you very much for attending, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.